What's up? You got Patrick here, and let's talk about how to sing like Nirvana. Yeah, yeah! Or something like that, okay? That particular tone. Yeah, yeah, yeah! Whatever. What Kurt would do, for the most part, is he would add a lot of glottal compression. So, a lot of that. There's no air coming through the chords at all, unless he's pushing it through, which he does a lot, by the way. Yeah! He kind of will do that type of thing. And that's the second thing. He does this kind of gravelly kind of scream, which is this, he's not quite, he does that too, but that's more of a buzzer type sound, and he'll do that in certain songs, but it's more kind of this, yeah, way, hey, way, but it's very nasal, it's very bright, so he's got it right in the mask. Hey, way, I got a real cool plan. And that's the real spot that he's singing in, and when he's singing the other stuff, when he's singing like, he's still adding a little bit of rasp in there. If you listen to the vocals, come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be. Now, there's a lot more crying and breaking in there. As I want you. I can't even do it. It's the stylistic thing. It's difficult for me to do. But he's got a lot of crying and breaking in there. And, it's pretty interesting that he would put that in there. And it's a little bit more nasal than maybe my voice naturally does. Want you to be. It might be a little bit more in that line. But the one thing that is constant there, that is very, very constant, is that glottal compression, that which he's adding that kind of gravel into. And it's kind of more of a fine gravel, I think, in my opinion. I mean, it's like, let's see here. I forget exactly what the notes are in the song. He's the one who likes... I think that's too high. He's the one who likes all the pretty songs, and he's singing something like that. And he's still kind of adding like a little bit of air behind that, despite having all the glottal compression, having it very, very nasal. It's very Johnny Rotten-ish. It's very much like all the pretty songs, all the pretty songs. He's still kind of got that particular vibe in there. But it's still got a lot of glottal compression, a lot of heaviness behind the note. It's not an easy note to hit. He's definitely trying to make it as heavy as he can. And you've got songs like, this is out of my range, this is out of my range, this is out of my range, and I'm stoned! Which is pretty much just screaming, you know? And then, yow! Stuff like that. And once again, that's just a fry scream in the falsetto. And a fairly low register, actually. It's not as high as you think. And he's just kind of letting that break. But once again, the fundamental thing behind it is the glottal compression and actually the nasality. It's this kind of sound that he gets behind it. And it's pretty cool, actually. And then he also kind of does this this country kind of twang to it. Like, sell the kids for food. Spring, I don't even know the lyrics. Spring is here again. What is it? Reproductive glands, the ends, yeah, hey, yeah. I mean, it's like it's almost like he's trying to sing like a country guy. He probably was thinking like, how can I make this as bad as I possibly can? Which is what he did the same thing with his guitar. I mean, this thing. Actually, got his guitar right here. Something like he would play. This thing. This thing is a piece of garbage. It sounds cool because it's like, okay, well, we know Nirvana. And I could go into his entire style of guitar playing. It's pretty interesting. But I think that even in between, like, the guitar playing and everything, which obviously his entire theory was contrast. That was the main theory that he was working off. It was just kind of this contrast theory. He wanted to kind of have this loud and soft sound. And so with his voice, he did this as well. So it's obvious with the guitar, Okay, it's like clean. Okay, we all know that song, then. Load up on guns, bring your friends. It's fun to lose and to pretend. She's overboard, self-assured, and I know a dirty word. It's a great song, great lyrics, great melody. And he's always kind of singing like in between kind of like the gravelly stuff. And I might be overdoing it a little bit. He might do a lot less than I do. And, I can try and get in there as much as I can. I'm not Kurt Cobain, and I'm not trying to be. I do my own thing. But I think there is something to be said about the kind of dynamics that he would sing with. He's, sell the kids for food. I mean, he actually probably is more whispering that if you want to know the truth. It's probably more like, sell the kids for food. And he always kind of has that little vibrato at the end. Yeah, da, da, da. So you got to add that kind of a vibrato at the end there, which is kind of cool too. Kind of adds a little bit more character than just singing completely straight. But he's singing these softer parts, and he's got this kind of bored, kind of country feel to it. And then he goes into this kind of screaming parts, which reminds me of kind of this. He keeps the same kind of accent, but it's like a Johnny Rotten feel to it, and he's just screaming it, and it's right in the nose there. It's really, really bright. Although he's not quite fully there. He's like what's her name? Courtney Love would go all out nasal in the nose. He's not quite fully there. He's still a little bit taking it back into the head. He's still kind of speaking it a little bit. But anyways, I mean that's kind of my breakdown of it. I mean it'd be like, and he does it in the upper register too, like my girl, where do you lie? Tell me where. He's doing stuff like that, and really it's just a falsetto scream with the fry scream. My girl, where do you lie? And you kind of just let it break a little bit. But the fundamental behind that is the fry scream, or is the glottal compression. It's a lot of it's really not about volume. It's about just simply holding back air, bringing the chords together, and then pushing air through the chords, as ironic as that might sound, through kind of this grunt, through this kind of this fry scream kind of thing. But if you guys want to learn how to do this, I am a vocal instructor. There's more to just singing this way than just, okay, I can tell you all the different techniques, go do it. You're going to have trouble with that. You got to learn to get the range, And you got to learn to get the range. You got to learn to get the upper register. There is a technique to that in terms of what part of the voice to use to get into that. You do have to learn how to resonate the voice in the right spot, how to support your voice the right way. Of course, you have a certain amount of fundamentals and basics, and you're going to be able to do that. But it will take a lot of training. And I think that the bel canto method, which is the method that I use, is by far the best method. And if you're looking to learn how to write songs like Kurt, sing like Kurt, well, I'm your guy to go to. I've written my own book on music theory. It's called Value. It will be on my website. If it's not on my website right now, I'm still in the process of finishing it. I'm just editing it at the moment, but the book is finished. And, that's going to be very, very interesting. I'm going to see, what people do with that book. I'm hoping it'll be in universities across the country. I based it off of evolutionary psychology, which is kind of an interesting thing. But I do understand what Kurt was thinking when he was thinking adding contrast. He did it with the voice, he did it with the guitar, and then I would say even in between all the notes with that cry that he's doing, that little voice crack that's going into the falsetto. It's like he's actually adding contrast in between his notes by singing in the falsetto, and that's a very, very interesting thing. I think Kurt truly was someone who was as genius as it gets. I mean, I don't think that there's a better. I mean, if you think of the '90s, who was the best musician? Who was the best musician of the '90s? I don't think anybody else is going to try and say anybody but Kurt. I mean, it was such a short-lived career. It was like 1990 maybe to 94. Maybe there was like 4 years of him, and probably like 91, 92 was probably where it started to get really big for them. And that was just Nirvana mania. Of course, I was 3 years old when he died, and there's all the conspiracies behind that. But there's a lot of things that he was doing that really worked. Another thing that was really big with Kurt, that was really smart by him, was that you take kind of these generalizations in terms of what people biologically are driven to do. And I think that you could take the Beatles, for example. The Beatles based all their songs off of love. Well, love is a fundamental emotion that everybody biologically wants to feel. That everybody wants to feel love. Everybody wants that. And I think that that's one of the reasons why the Beatles are the most successful band of all time. One of them. I don't think that they necessarily relate to the people of today. just because the music isn't really of today. You know, we've built up new technology that maybe the guitar is kind of falling out of phase. Unfortunately, I love rock music. That's why it's Song Rocker. That's what my website is, songrocker.net. But you know, I think that there's a lot of people that are coming out and they're doing the DJ stuff, and that's fun, and that's cool. And I think that maybe that's going to be the new thing, and something new will come along. Somebody new like the Beatles will come along and completely change music. But I think it's going to stay still with some of the fundamental evolutionary emotions. Like love is one of them. I think that Metallica owns anger. Okay, and I think that Nirvana. This is very interesting because their song was Teen Spirit. That was the big song. I think that that's exactly what it is. They are emphasizing teen spirit. That's it. It's the teen angst. I mean, when Kurt sings, it's almost like he's trying to be an angry teenager, and I think that I'm too mature to really be able to imitate him in that way. But, you know, he'd scream in a way where his voice would crack. He would let his voice crack, you know. Yeah! You know, something like that. I can do my best with that. I'm not Kurt. And it takes a lot of practice, and I don't really practice that particular type of singing. I practice more the scales and the, you know, the opera and stuff like that. But I think I can do it some justice. Some justice. He screams and he kind of lets it crack and lets it break and do all these different things because he wants to make it more real. Like it's just the angry teenager, you know, with all the fucking hormones being pumped into his body, you know, not being able to go out and hang with his friends because he didn't take out the trash, you know. And it's like the rest of the time, it's like I'm bored, you know, can I, you know, fundamentally, if you really want to know why we're bored, it's because we used to be able to explore, we used to be able to go and hunt animals, we used to do a lot more things out in the wilderness that we just can't do anymore because of overpopulation. That's why I think teenagers are bored, if you want to know the truth, coming from an evolutionary psychology standpoint. But even then, you know, I think that when you want to create a band and you want to make it as big as you can, you want to dive directly into, you know, it's one of the fundamental evolutionary hardwirings in the brain. Like if you can tap into that, love, that's the biggest one. More songs are number one hits with love songs than any other song. Now I know that we're doing hard rock here, and so it's kind of like, okay, well, what song was that? Well, Sweet Child of Mine. How many times have you heard that song? How many times has that song been played on the radio for you guys? I mean, it's a huge song, and that's Guns N' Roses' biggest song. You know, that, maybe Paradise City. Take me down to the Paradise City where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. Oh, won't you please take me home? Great stuff. I don't know if I can do an Axl, to be honest, but I mean, that would be something that would be interesting to look into Guns N' Roses and figure out what fundamental emotion that one's really playing off of. I think it would be somewhere. There's a lot of emphasis on the blues and the tritone, and that'd be something to think about. It's somewhere in between, well, I mean, the tritone is fundamental. You know, it's anger. It's like you can actually look at somebody's facial expression and determine what emotion somebody is trying to emote. There was a book by Darwin. I forget what it's called, but it was all based upon facial expressions by animals. And he actually went through and looked at different animals in terms of their facial expressions and was able to find that there was a certain reason behind why each animal evolved the different facial expressions that they did, and why we're able to look at a cat, for example, and understand it's angry, or, you know, we're happy or whatever. Maybe not happy, but we can at least see that the cat is angry. We can see that the eyes go, you know, we can see that. Why do the eyebrows come down to protect the eyes when you get angry? You know, why does it happen? You know, when you're doing like the hey, what's up, girl? Hey, you know, the eyebrows come down with the badass look. You know what I mean? Just, you know, and, you know, surprised. What? Why the eyebrows go up? Darwin went into all of that stuff, and so if you were to try and figure that out, I would say just use the circuitry that you already have. You know, use the circuitry that you already have in your brain. I would go back to that book as a reference, and I would sit there and just like, hey, I would go through all the different facial expressions, and I'd be like, okay, so it's kind of this feel. Obviously, there's some anger in there. Obviously, there's some badassness, whatever that is. You know, it's fundamentally, if you want to know the truth, what I think that it is, it's showing alpha dominance to some degree. And so the alpha male would get the lady, and he'd be like, yeah, that's right, I got the fucking girl. But the eyebrows are down, and it's a smile. You know, it's an aggression thing. It's an aggression thing. You try and show empathy to somebody. The eyes are open. Look at my hands. Look where my arms are. You know, all this stuff matters. You know, we just gotta love one another. Peace, love. You know. why do you hate? Because hate is fun. That's why, motherfuckers. But anyways, yeah, the product that I've got, my fucking pit bull is gonna come in here and bug the shit out of me. Hey, Lucy, you want to go on camera? Lucy, 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 Lucy. She goes crazy whenever I do this. Now she's shy. She's shy. You guys can see her there. But now she's gonna start going crazy. But yeah, if you guys want to start doing stuff with me, what I would recommend doing is going to songrocker.net. Go to my website, and I would recommend that the first thing that you do is buy my program. It's Elements of Singing. And that'll give you a basis to go through the different scales. You know, if you're trying to go through the different scales, and this is a long-ass video, you know, let's see here. Like if you do it like Kurt Cobain, so like I do it with a name. So it'd be name, name, name. I might do that with some gravel. Name, okay, name, yeah, yeah, you know. Whatever you're trying to do. And then you start shaping that in different ways. If I added some more glottal compression, I could probably get a more of a raspiness in there, you know, rather than a gravel, you know. Yeah, let's see if I can figure that out. So, name, name, you know, more of a rasp. That's kind of more what he would scream. The glottal compression is going to close the chords enough to where you can get that kind of grunting sound. It's more, more in the back, where that's kind of delivering, and so he had a way of getting it like right in front, and he would get less than me. He would do probably more around like that. But anyways, yeah, I would recommend getting Elements of Singing. That would be the first thing that I would say, so you can learn to go through all the scales, learn to scream the right way, learn the different parts of the voice. You know, because there's a lot of things out there that'll mess you up, and the real fundamental is this. The way that this technique was developed is in Italy, what they would do is they would go around the country trying to find these people that had 4-octave voices. And it didn't happen in any other country. It didn't happen in Germany. The Germans, Deutschland, blah, 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 blah. You know, they speak much lower. You know, pretty much all the other countries except for Italy. Because if you listen to the language is much more fluid. So you have a language that's more like, Mamma Mia, you know, and right there I went to the head voice. Mamma Mia! Mamma Mia! You're like, there's the falsetto right there. And you would get these people that truly had everything connected from the chest voice, which is oh, to the head voice, ah, you know, which it's more of a pharyngeal head voice. Probably wasn't done very well, but you get it. The reinforced falsetto type stuff, and those would resonate in different spots. But they just had singers that could do it naturally. And what you want to do to be a good singer is be as natural as you can. And you get all these guys that want to get you going through these blah 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 blah. Whoa 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 whoa. You're never going to sing well with that. You've got to get it back to the fundamentals. And I think that opera is the fundamental. And the real difference is kind of like this. It's like you know, back in the neck pickup. It's going to be light or it's going to be dark. And those are probably terrible examples that I just gave you. I mean, opera singer screaming, yeah, right, okay. But that's the difference. It's either a big dark tone or it's a bright tone. The rock tone is a bright tone, okay? Doesn't mean you can't have a big round tone or a dark tone, but most of the time it's a bright tone. Anyways, guys, that was my little thing with Kurt Cobain in terms of how he sings, his technique. Hopefully this was helpful to you guys. And let's see, anything else that I want to add? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Songrocker.net. My name is Patrick. Over and out.